sitting comfortably or lying down. If you are, close your eyes and relax and listen to our story, Rumplestiltskin. There once was a poor miller who always wanted to appear important in the eyes of all his friends. He had little to boast about except his only daughter, who was exceedingly pretty. One day, the miller found himself in the presence of the king. Now, he was really at a loss, for he knew there was little sense in boasting about his house or his mill to a king who had everything. At last he blurted out, "I have a daughter, your majesty, a very pretty, clever child, so clever that she can spin straw into gold." "That is a skill which I should like to possess," said the king. "Bring her to the palace tomorrow, and if she is as clever as you say she is, I will reward you handsomely." As you may imagine, the miller was in a rare fright when he got home. But wisely he said nothing of his boasting to his daughter. Instead, he pretended to be very excited. "Just think," he told her, "the king wants to see you at the palace tomorrow. It is a great honor." But the miller's daughter almost fainted away when she arrived at the palace the next day, for the king took her into a small room full of straw and pushed her towards a wheel and a shuttle. "You must begin at once," he said. "You have everything you need to spin this straw into gold. If your task is not accomplished by morning, you shall be put to death." Left alone, the miller's daughter buried her pretty head in her arms and began to sob bitterly. No one could spin straw into gold. This was an impossible task. Yet, if she did not do it, she would die. At the height of her grief, the door opened, and into the room came a little man. He was so tiny that the girl did not even see him and went on sobbing. But when he said, "Good day to you, why do you weep so bitterly?" Well, that was a different matter. The miller's daughter choked down her sobs and stared down in astonishment at the little goblin, whose head seemed almost too big and heavy for thin and stick-like legs. "I'll tell you why I'm crying," she stammered. "And you would cry too if the king had commanded you to spin all this horrible straw into gold. That is what I must do, and by the morning too." "That is too bad," said the little man, shaking his head. "Now, what will you give me if I spin this straw into gold for you?" "You may have my necklace," said the girl. The little man took the necklace and sat down at the spinning wheel. In a few minutes, the shuttle was full, and he was spinning away at lightning speed. Then he filled another and another, until by early morning there was not a piece of straw left. All of it was changed to gold. Before the miller's daughter had time to thank the goblin, he had vanished, which was, perhaps, just as well, for almost immediately afterwards the king appeared. When he saw all the gold, he praised the girl for her hard work. But being a greedy king, he could think only of obtaining more. And he ordered the miller's daughter to be taken to a bigger room, in which was stacked much more straw. The girl's despair once again reduced her to bitter tears. She was sobbing as if her poor heart would break, when suddenly the door opened, and in came the little man again. "What will you give me this time if I spin all this straw into gold for you?" The girl replied at once, "I will give you this gold ring. See how pretty it is." And she pulled it off her finger and gave it to him. The little man took the ring and sat down at the spinning wheel. By morning, he had spun all the straw into gold. The king was extremely pleased when he came to see the miller's daughter the next morning. But still he wasn't satisfied. The sight of all that gold made him long for an even greater fortune. He led the girl into a room which was twice the size of the one where she had spent the previous night. His servants carried great bundles of straw into the room, and when it was filled, the king said, "If you spin all this straw into gold by daybreak, I will make you my wife." "You mean I shall be queen?" asked the girl, forgetting in her excitement the task which she must first perform. "I do," said the king, thinking to himself that he could do a great deal worse than marry such a clever, pretty girl, even if she was only a miller's daughter. "Now," thought the girl as soon as the king had left her, "I must wait patiently for my little friend. Surely he will come." She sat down on the stool provided for her and clasped her hands on her lap. Then she began to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. When she reached 20, the door suddenly opened and in came the little goblin. "What will you give me," he asked, "if I once again spin all this straw into gold?" Now the girl's eyes clouded. What could she give the little man? She had given him her necklace and her ring, and she had nothing else to give. I'm sorry," she stammered. "I have nothing to give you this time, but won't you wait till I'm queen? Then you can have any treasure you ask for." "You must give me your first-born child," said the dwarf. "Promise that you will give me your firstborn, and I will spin the straw into gold for you." "I promise," cried the girl. "I promise, but please set to work at once, for there is twice as much straw as before." The little man sat down at the wheel, and in a few minutes the shuttle was full. Then he had filled another, and another, and another, until by daybreak he had spun all the straw into shining gold. The king was so delighted at the sight of the gold that he declared he would marry the miller's daughter that same day. The wedding, though arranged in such haste, was a grand affair. A year afterwards, the queen gave birth to a fine baby boy. Of course, she had forgotten all about the goblin who saved her and the promise she had made to him. So imagine her surprise and horror when one day, as she was sitting nursing her baby, he suddenly came into her room. "Give me the child," he demanded. "I cannot do such a terrible thing," cried the young queen in deep distress. "You may have my jewels, my golden crown, anything, but not my baby." "I want only your child," said the little man. At this, the girl, quite forgetting her queenly dignity, dropped to her knees and begged the dwarf to change his mind. So piteously did she plead that at last he said, "I will give you 3 days to discover my name. If you can, you may keep your son." When the goblin had done, the queen immediately sent out her most trusted messengers to far corners of the kingdom to inquire in all the towns and cities about unusual names. They came back with names like Jasper, Crispin, and Melkor. "I will try them on the little man when he comes next," she said. Next morning, the goblin once more appeared before her, and she began, "Your name is Jasper." "It is not," replied the dwarf, and he grinned from ear to ear. "Then it is Crispin or Melkor." No, it is not," he replied again, even more delighted. The queen tried to hide her dismay. "Come again tomorrow," she said. "Tomorrow I will know." This time the messengers went further afield to the villages and hamlets and small out-of-the-way farms. And when the dwarf came the next day, the queen was ready for him with a whole string of unusual names. "It must be Baltimore or Jude," she said. "No, it is not Baltimore, nor is it Jude," chuckled the goblin. "Then it is Finnegan," cried the queen. No, it is not," said the dwarf, clapping his hands in glee. "Tomorrow is your last chance. Then the child will be mine." Alone again, the queen gave way to bitter tears. But soon she pulled herself together and thought what she must do. Then she summoned one of her most treasured servants. "Take a horse and make for the hills," she said. "And whenever you meet a stranger, inquire of him what he calls his son. Ride until your horse is too weary to continue, but be sure to return to me by early morning." When the messenger returned, he came straight to the queen. It looked as if he had no luck. "I could not find a single new name," he admitted, "but something strange happened. My horse fell lame, so I dismounted and climbed to the top of a high mountain. There, right on the very top, was a little house." "Did you see anyone?" asked the queen. "Did anyone live in that house?" "There was a fire burning in front of it," the messenger replied. "And as I watched from behind a rock, I saw the oddest little creature come out and begin hopping and prancing around a fire. Then he began to sing. Such a strange, cracked voice he had. It made me take notes of the words." "The words? What were the words?" demanded the queen. "Strange words indeed, your majesty," said the messenger. "Today I break, tomorrow I brew. The next I'll have the young queen's child. Oh, glad am I that no one knew that Rumplestiltskin I am styled." "That's the name, then," cried the queen, and in her excitement she took off her diamond necklace and gave it to the astonished messenger. Then, composing herself, she sat down to await the dwarf. No sooner did he come than she began. "Is your name Reuben?" "No," he said, already beginning to smile. "What about Conrad?" The little man shook his head, his eyes bright with triumph. Then perhaps it is Rumpelstiltskin." At the sound of his name, the little man's expression changed to one of terrible rage. He stamped the floor so hard with his foot that he disappeared forever into the hole that he had made in the floor.